It's another Dueling Excel podcast. I'm Bill Jelen. Thanks to George Wood for that great theme. Hey, today we want to learn how to sort with a formula. Now, I always go with rank and count if, but we're going to use a great formula from the book Excel Gurus Gone Wild that's going to solve this. Now, first of all, let me just hit you with an easy question. How do we find the largest value in that range? Answer? Max. Of course, everyone uses max. Great way to figure out the largest value in the range. And we see that that is 19. But what if we want the second largest value? Well, hey, there's another great function called large. So here I'm going to put in the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll see how this works. Equal large. The way that large works is we point to our range right there, F4, and then ask for the first largest value, which is the exact same as max. But as we copy that down and ask for the second, third, fourth largest values, it returns the second, the third, and the fourth in the array. And the beautiful thing is it has no problem with ties, which the rank function does. So the large function is going to be our key to solving this problem. I'm going to enter a formula here. I'm going to say I want the equal large of this array. Now I make sure to hit the F4 key to lock that down, and then I don't want to have to type the number 1, the number 2, the number 3, the number 4, so I'm going to use my old trick, row of A1. Row of A1 is a way of typing the number 1, and as that gets copied down, it's going to ask for the row of B1, which is 2, and then 3, and then 4, and then 5. I'll press Control Enter, just to enter that formula all the way down, and there is our array of sorted values. Cool. Now that's if we need to go high to low. If you need to go low to high, then equals small, that whole range. Again, press the F4 key and the row of A1. Control Enter, and there's our values. High to low, low to high. Great trick. Now we'll throw this over the wall to Mike and see what Mike has for us.
Thanks, Mr. Excel. Hey, that's a pretty great formula right there. Anything from that Guru's book is awesome. Hey, I'm going to use the same formula, but just do a slight variation. I'm going to click right here, and we'll do large to small equals large. I'm going to get that same range, Control-Shift down arrow F4, comma, and instead of using row, I'll use rows with an S, which counts the number of total rows. And I'm sitting in E2, so I'm going to type $2 colon E2, close parentheses. Right now, rows, we'll say how many rows are there? 2 to 2, but this is locked. This one is not. As this expands, it will increasingly get a larger count for rows. I'm going to Control Enter, double click, and send it down. Now, we can come right here and easily see that E2 to E4, this was a relative cell reference which expanded the range. So now it's asking the question, how many rows between 2 and 4? There are 3, which delivers 3, and then the third largest. Now for the small column, I'm just going to copy this right here, paste it right here, and then change this large to a small. By the way, in 2007, as soon as you type a certain number of letters, if you see that your function is highlighted in blue, you can just hit Tab, and it puts it in. Control Enter. And by the way, this rows right here, you can see there was no $sign in front of the G. There was in front of the 2. So when we copied it over here, it moved to G2, but it's still locked going down. And Control Enter, and then double click and send it down. Now we have our two formulas. So example here, we're using rows with an S and row. What are the advantages and disadvantages of each? The advantage to rows, this range is referring to the range where the formula is. So if you were to use an external cell reference like A1, if you deleted A1 or inserted a row above row 1, the formula would not work. Rows can handle that. So advantage is it can handle the fact that a row might be inserted or a cell might be deleted. Let's just go take a look here. I'm going to right-click delete that cell A1. We get a reference error because reference error means and we shifted it to the left. Reference means that cell has been deleted. I'm going to Control Z. Not only that, but if we right-click Insert, then we get a num error because there is no number 14 item in this list that only has 13. Now I'm going to Control Z. There's an easy way to fix that, and that is simply to prevent people from deleting cells or inserting rows or deleting rows. Go to Review and then Protect Sheet, and then click OK. Now you cannot insert or delete. So that would fix that problem. I'm going to go ahead and unprotect this. So advantage of rows is that it can deal with inserting columns or deleting cells. But the disadvantage is that this formula right here down at the bottom is looking through 2 to 14, 13 cells. And as Mr. Excel just talked about in podcast 1014 and 1011, calculation speed matters, especially for large spreadsheets. So boom, the disadvantage is that can takes longer to calculate, especially if you have a huge list. So advantage, can deal with inserting rows. Disadvantage, calculating speed might be slow. Advantage here, calculating speed, boom, just one cell, calculating speed fast. Disadvantage is it can't deal with inserting rows. All right, we'll see you next trick.
Mike, excellent trick using rows instead of row. And I hear what you're saying, that you think that would take longer because rows has to evaluate a whole bunch of rows. But I started to think about that. The large function has to evaluate those same range of rows and actually look at all the values. I mean, rows is really just doing a straight out subtraction, or from the end to the beginning. And it turns out that rows versus row, when I actually ran it using my speed macro, my method using row took 57.4 seconds. Your method using rows, 57.2, actually faster. Now I think that has to be a rounding error, but let's just call them equivalent. So point to Mike. Great way to avoid the problem with someone inserting or deleting a row near the top of the spreadsheet using rows instead. Hey, have a great weekend. Catch you next time for another Dueling Excel podcast from Mike and Bill.